A couple weeks ago, I started a new experiment on this channel. I wanted to see what would happen if you never did a water change in a newly set up planted aquarium. Especially on the aquascaping side of the aquarium hobby, people always talk about how important water changes are, and many aquascapers are even doing daily water changes in the first few weeks of a new setup. But then there's this other side of the planted aquarium hobby where people are not doing any water changes and still achieving great results. So I thought it is time for a test. I bought two 30cm all-in-one cubes and set them both up the exact same way. Now before we continue with this video, I think it's important to do a little disclaimer. So I'm only doing these experiments and side-by-side comparisons because I'm curious about the results and I'm doing them for fun. By no means is this advice on how to keep an aquarium or how to set up an aquarium, how to run an aquarium. I have plenty of other videos for that. Most important is to always do your own research and put the needs of the fish and the other inhabitants first before anything else. Okay, let's continue. So this is a really nice high quality 30cm optic white all-in-one cube. So it has a filtration compartment in the back. The intake sits here on the left side, and then on the right side we have the outflow. It actually comes with a USB pump, has a little standpipe so that you just connect to the outflow here. And basically that's it. There is some filter media here, but it's basically just black sponges. So I'll probably also add some ceramic media, and yeah, let's just set it up. Both tanks got the same filter media, they both got the same light, they both got the same substrate, same hardscape, and lastly I planted both of them with a variety of fast and slow growing plants. After that I moved into the shelf, filled them with RO water, installed the CO2 system, and that was it. We were ready to begin our experiment. So one tank is going to get water changes and one tank I'm just going to leave alone. So we have to determine now which one is going to be. I think I'm going to leave this one alone because this one is sort of closest to my water change system. So well, let's just write it up with pen. WC, and then yeah, and then this one. No water changes, water changes. So I started this experiment on the 6th of June. After 10 days and 3 water changes, things were starting to change. If you look closely at the tank on the left, you can start seeing some greenish algae appearing on the glass and back of the tank. And just 4 days later, on the 20th of June, you can see that little bit of greenish algae has exploded. The tank on the right now had 4 water changes. You can see that this tank also has a little bit of algae on the glass, but we're also getting some hair algae. Now for the sake of the experiment, I didn't want to do any cleaning or manual removal of the algae. But normally in new setups, after 2 weeks, I started with adding a cleanup crew. So I decided to do the same here. On the 20th of June, both tanks got 3 horned nerite snails. On the 22nd of June, I did another water change on the right tank, and I noticed that the floating plants were getting a bit out of control, and they started to block the flow intake of the filter compartment. So I removed a lot of them from both tanks. 2 days later, the cleanup crew got some new members, as I introduced 2 other cinchlus and 2 amano shrimp in each tank. Let's see what kind of damage control these guys are capable of. It is currently the 11th of July, so that means it's been exactly 5 weeks since I started this experiment, and I think it's time to wrap it up. I never intended this to be a very long-term experiment. There's a bunch more experiments that I want to do, so I want to finish this one and start a new experiment. So 2 weeks after adding in the cleanup crew, nothing had really changed. The tank on the right still has quite a bit of hair algae, and the tank on the left is still completely covered in green dust algae. Now to be honest with you guys, I'm not really surprised by these results. Whenever you are working with a fresh aquasoil, you're always going to get a spike in nutrients in the very beginning. And if the tank is not yet stable, you're going to get algae. I guess the people that are promoting the no water change aquarium are either not using Aquasoil as a substrate, or they're only doing a couple water changes in the beginning and then stop when things have stabilized. Now before we wrap it up, I want to do a big water change on both tanks and try to remove as much of the algae as possible, so we can have a look at both tanks and see how the plants have grown in those 5 weeks. So after a bit of maintenance, both tanks look much better. And if we look at the plants, there's maybe a small difference between the 2 tanks. I think because the tank on the left had no water changes, the plants had more nutrients available and they may have grown a bit more. But yeah, it's not a massive difference and definitely not worth skipping water changes for. Now I'm pretty sure that at this point both tanks are quite stable, and if I would stop doing water changes now, there wouldn't be any big issues. So if you really don't enjoy doing water changes, and you want to know if it's possible to skip them, I would say do them frequently in the beginning, and then over the course of a few weeks, slowly reduce the number of water changes until you can stop altogether. But with that said, I really enjoy doing water changes, so I'm just going to keep doing them.